Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Blog Talk Radio.
With a sanctified imagination, a Bible-based worldview, and a face made for radio, it's the new R7 Radio with Hoover, live from the great state of Arkansas. No more rehearsing and rehearsing of parts. We know every part by heart. Oh, I'm sure turn the lights. This is it. We'll hit the heights. And oh, what heights we'll hit. On with the show. This is it. And thank you for joining me once again on R7 Radio and now video. This is the third broadcast that will be loading up to YouTube. Now, hopefully, once again, I beg your indulgence while I try to figure out how to work the broadcast, the live broadcast on Twitch. There's a way to do it. I just really haven't had time to figure it out. It's finals week, of course, here at Ecclesia College, and I've been busy. Now, we're going to be with Susan Swift tonight on the radio. She had another engagement. And of course, there was a little a little misunderstanding about the time zones. So she said she may be calling in 5 or 10 minutes late. No problem. Those of you that know me know that I could go on for the whole show and just ramble because, quite frankly, I love to hear myself talk. So let's get started. I'm going to pray for us. I'm going to read our Bible verse for the night, and we'll just wait for Susan's phone call while I talk about other things that are very, very important and could change your life forever. Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time. I thank you for R7 Radio, the ability to go out through video and radio and hopefully get some information out, help people think through things, give a biblical worldview on some issues. I just thank you for the opportunity, and I pray that I would do a good job and that I would do what you've asked me to do tonight. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So first of all, I have to tell you I've got some new, as you've already seen on the video, high-tech, like subscript, would it be? Or some kind of thing that I'm going to be using from now on my video. I'll show you one of them. Here it is right here. We're going to be talking about jerryspencer.org a little bit. That's where you need to go. Let me do it again. I'll flash it up there. Whoa, jerryspencer.org. Go there and let me see if I can get Mark Foster. I believe that's Mark. Is that you, Mark, on the phone calling in?
Hello, yes, it is me, and on the treadmill.
Aha! So we're going to get maybe a chance to hear you breathing heavy or something. I don't know. That's kind of weird for a Christian.
Yes, I'm not a stalker or weirdo.
Okay.
If you can hear it, or if it's loud or noisy, let me know.
It's not. It's fine. I was just doing my introduction. I was telling people that Susan said that she would be just a little late calling in, so I prayed, did the Bible verse, and was just talking about jerryspencer.org, inviting people to go over and listen to his radio show, not radio show, I'm sorry, he doesn't have a radio show. I was inviting people to go over and watch his videos that are on my channel. And, well, I was messing a little bit with the settings here on the radio because there's a little bit of background noise with you. It's not that bad, but I thought maybe I could mute that out, but then I realized, I won't be able to hear you at all, and that's no bueno. So a
little bit of background noise with me?
Yeah, just a little bit, but it's not terribly bad, so I'm not going to worry about it.
How about now?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Is it better?
Yeah, that's better.
I can. Is it better now?
That actually is better. So let me read our Bible verse for the night, and we'll just kind of go through some other things until we get Miss Swift on the phone. The Bible verse for the night is 2 Corinthians 5:20. Now then, we are ambassadors for Christ, as though God did beseech you by us. We pray you in Christ's stead be reconciled to God.
I like the idea of being an ambassador for Christ, and that verse is very clear that the end goal is that people be reconciled to God. But there are other jobs that ambassadors have, and one of the things that we've got to take care of is just relating to people, relating to others, and figuring out how in this world with such political diversity, with such different religious backgrounds, how can we be ambassadors for Christ in those areas as well? So I think it's a very important verse, not only for us to get down, but to remember. The folks that we're trying to win, by the way, from a biblical standpoint, they're not the enemy. The Bible's very clear that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against, basically, it's the satanic powers. And so these people are held captive. They're being held by Satan just like we were at one time. And so our job is to go be those ambassadors and help them become reconciled to God. Well, Mark, we're waiting for Susan to come on the line. Yeah, did you just have something beep real loud? That was a fun noise.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's just interesting. I believe this is her calling in.
That's my treadmill volume
let's
button.
see if we can. I think this is Susan calling in now. Susan, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, Steve.
Very-
Thanks for having me.
Oh, I am so excited to have you here now. Just so you know, my friend from college days, Mark Foster, is hanging on the line. This is kind of how he listens in on the show, so you may hear a little bit of background noise. It's not too bad, but I just want to welcome you to R7 Radio. So glad to have you on our show. I was telling our listening audience that I had messed up and hadn't told you about the time difference, and that you would be a little late calling in. So there you are. I just want to real quick, for those folks that don't know, this is Susan Swift. She is an actress, writer, lawyer, political activist, of course, but most important, mom of 7, and loves the Lord, and just really excited about having you on here. But I do want to mention real quick and get your thoughts on this, Susan. I just watched Audrey Rose a couple nights ago. I was telling my wife that I was going to have you on the show, and she said, "Oh, that's one of my favorite shows from back then." And I was shocked to learn that Elliot Hoover was Audrey Rose's father, and my name is Steve Hoover. So I'm wondering if there's a connection somewhere. Maybe we're related somehow.
I don't know. Do you kind of have like a Welsh accent, like, Anthony Hopkins, who played Elliot Hoover? Because if you do, man, I'm all over that.
I'm afraid I don't have a Welsh accent. It's more like a English accent, and not a good one at that, I might say.
Or like a Scottish one.
Scottish, that's it. That's it. I need some haggis. Well, very good to have you with us, ma'am. So, listen, I sent, for those of you listening and watching on video, I sent you some questions, and I thought that would be a great idea. But after I did that, I went and watched some interviews that you had done in other areas and listened. And really, some of the things that I was going at can be found elsewhere. So Mark Foster has called in. He is a good friend. He's got a question for you. So I'm going to let him ask a question. And then I'm really going to kind of just see if there's anything on your heart that you want to talk about tonight. And we'll go from there. Does that sound okay?
That sounds fine. And if I don't know the answer, I'll just pretend I'm a liberal and I'll make it up.
That's very, very funny. I'm going to use one of my high-tech devices now because I'm putting up a sign that says liberal tears, and I don't know how that's going to go over on my video or not. I'm all new to this video thing. I've been doing the radio show for about 5 years, but the video I'm not so good at yet. Okay, Mark, go ahead, fire away your question for Susan here.
Well, hello, and good to meet you.
Great
And
to meet you, Mark. This is cool.
I appreciate the opportunity. I was just wondering if there aren't many conservatives, it seems like, very public anyway, perhaps, in Hollywood that we see and hear about. There's a handful. I mean, there's certainly more the other direction. Are you familiar with Kevin Sorbo and Sam Sorbo?
I have not met them, so no, I'm not very familiar. But there are a lot of conservatives in Hollywood. There's that. We actually have a kind of an underground secret society, if you will, and so there's lots of us. But we can't out each other or talk about it because a lot of them, they have their livelihood depends on it. As you've seen with the whole Kanye West thing that's going on,
incredible.
they're actually the liberals. This is to have a very pop culture black icon like Kanye West. He's as pop culture as you can get and very popular. For him to go off of the liberal plantation, because he's spoken of it. He says, I want to be a free thinker, and liberal thought, they're thought police. They are the culture keepers. That's exactly what liberals fancy themselves.
Exactly, yeah.
They want to keep you in a certain culture. I mean, they're trying to actually get rid of American culture and especially Christian culture, because they are communist by nature. Communism can with a religion. It can't.
Right.
And so their first goal, their goal in all things, if you boil it all down, is to destroy Christian religion. That's the ultimate point of communism. But getting back to Kanye is he's a strong black pop culture icon who's now come out and said, look, I get to have my own ideas, and if I want to support Donald Trump, and if I think a lot of the things he's doing is great, well, who are you to say that I can't, express my opinion? And they have gone absolutely ballistic, because you can't have a prominent person on the liberal plantation break those chains and all of a sudden act like somebody actually called him a free thinker, a black free thinking man or ideology. They actually said it, which I found to be such a racist comment, that the liberals believe that if you are a black man or a black woman, you must conform your thoughts, your ideology to the left, to the current liberal establishment, if you will.
Incredible.
And that you're not allowed to think like a white man. That would be what they would say. You're not allowed to. That's why they hated Thomas Sowell. They don't like him. They don't like Justice Thomas. They don't like him because, of course, he's a quote-unquote Uncle Tom, and he's married to a white woman, and he's sitting on the Supreme Court. That's a huge threat. Can you imagine telling a young kid who happens to be black, oh yeah, you could be a Supreme Court justice, and you could be Kanye West, and you could be popular and all these things, but only if you think like a liberal.
Yeah.
And then when they grow up and they see these people, they see, well, geez, we've got a black Supreme Court justice. That's okay, isn't it? No, that's not, because he's not down with the struggle. He's not authentically black. That's what these liberal icons are. I'm sorry, I'm in a car right now, but hope you can hear me over the noise. I apologize.
We can hear you.
I got
fine.
my times messed up.
That was my fault.
The
I want
attack on Kanye, they're not going to stop that. They're not going to stop the attack on Kanye. They've got to destroy him now, because he's come out as, fairly in favor of Trump, and, fairly in the notion of saying, I want to be a free thinker and make up my own mind. That is a conservative tenet. Now he's come out and said that. They're going to destroy him. And I've even heard an interview it was on 790 in the LA area, 790, that the hosts were just, back and forth bantering, and they were suggesting that, he's off his meds, and that he's got some sort of mental problem that he might, need medication for, and that might explain why he's having all these, Kanye's mental case, and he needs to stay on his medication, and maybe that's why he, is saying these wild and fanciful things.
It's incredible. It's not like he came out and said, "Hey, I'm becoming a conservative. I'm going to join the Republican Party, and anybody that doesn't like Donald Trump is an idiot." He just said, "Hey, Donald Trump's my friend. I like the way this person thinks." Who was it? What was her name? Candace. I can't remember her last name. You may know, Susan. But it's amazing, isn't it, that they've taken this stand, that even just the thought of discussing the possibility that somebody on the right could have some good ideas has caused so much backlash.
Well, yeah, I think the only thing, there are three, threats, I guess. Obviously, a conservative black man is a grave threat to the liberal ideology and the liberal plantation, but because that obviously goes in the face of demographics. Worse than that, of course, is a conservative black female. That
Right.
would be that's even worse. And that is a little. I mean, although I'm not a Rachel Dolezal. I don't self-identify and decide to go get a tan and do my hair and identify as black, right? So I'm not as authentic, I guess, as a conservative black woman. I am a conservative female. I like to say, yeah, I'm the C word. I'm a conservative.
Right.
And they hate that. They do not like conservative women because conservative women stand for certain principles and values that they reflect Christian religion by and large, for the most part, and they tend to be outspoken about their beliefs for their country and for their children, and so they go after conservative women because that's the heart. If you can look, hey, the devil knew who to go after. He went after Eve, right?
Right.
If he could just get her to say, check this apple out, it is sweet, right? That's how you turn a culture. You turn a culture by going after the woman,
Right.
and convincing her that, oh well, apple's fine. Hey, the pill's fine. Hey, birth control's fine. Hey, abortion's fine. It's all about you, babe. You need that SUV, and you need your mani-pedi, and it's really all about you. And that's just a blob of tissue, and it's not that big of a deal. And no, you're not hurting anything. That's how you turn a culture. You change it from a life-giving culture, from a life, a bountiful culture full of life and love, and you get the women to start being killers in the womb.
Yeah.
And you destroy a culture that way.
Now, two things.
And they're very effective at doing that.
Two things that I just want to ask you real quick. One is that, have you heard this statistic that the liberal left needs 85% of the black vote to win an election, to win a presidential election? And so that's going back to not wanting them off the plantation, so to speak.
Yeah, is that all? I thought it was even high. I know that black turnout is usually like in the 90% for whatever the liberal candidate is. But I had not heard the fact that they have to have 85%. They have to have that, otherwise they'll lose the election.
Yeah, I think that's true. I got
that
that from actually Bill Whittle, the guys over at.
I love Bill. He's great.
Have you met Bill Whittle, or have you just listened to him?
Yes, I have.
Oh, I'm so envious.
I've
I tell people all the time, when I get bigger, I want to be Bill Whittle. He's the one. It was actually watching his show that inspired me to kind of do this, maybe from the same things that they're doing over there, but from a little bit more of a biblical point of view. And I love Bill Whittle. I watch everything I can get a hold of. But that's where I got that statistic, and that information was from the right angle.
True.
Yeah, that's right. So now the next thing is, you made a
that's
comment.
Why they cannot afford. They can't afford to having their slave voters leave. You
Right.
are enslaved. That's what Kanye was talking about. Is mentally, he even got some flack for saying, "Look, at this point, after 400 years, if you're saying that blacks are still enslaved at this point in our history, in 2018, what that means is, that's 400 years. We've had 250 years of slavery. Add on top of that another 150 years since then. That comes to 400 years. If you're saying that, then obviously it's been a choice for the last 150 years."
It's incredible.
Now, the only thing that I would take issue with on that is that up until I think we still had segregation in schools in the 50s, and until that ended, there was still an element of the separate but equal, different drinking fountains, and you had to go to a certain school, those kind of things. I still think that was perpetuating a second-class citizen status for people of color, and that was wrong. But even if you go through up until the 1950s or 60s, you're talking at least 100 years. And what Kanye's point was, well, you're making a choice. You can make a choice to choose to be enslaved to an ideology or to a way of thinking. You can choose to be a victim, and that is the point that he's making. And that if you break through, if people understand that we all have choices, we're choosing to live our Christian faith day to day.
Yeah.
And some people don't.
That's right.
Some people lie, some people cheat and steal, and today it's okay if I break this commandment. It's not that big a deal, right? I'll make it up later. No, you're making a choice every day to live your Christian faith, just like you're making a choice every day if you're choosing to be a victim, if you're choosing
Amen.
to stay silent at work about whatever it is, like the whole hashtag Me Too. Well, if you're choosing to work in that industry under those conditions, you're making a choice. Gwyneth Paltrow, just saying. I mean, you know, if you're, hey, Meryl Streep, I know you like that golden statue, but hey, you're making a choice.
That's
and
wonderful.
You just have to recognize the consequences of your choice. Your choice is, well, yeah, hey, I got the golden statue and I got a lot of good money. And so, yeah, you know, I can see a lot of commonality between, you know, successful actresses in Hollywood and, you know, Stormy Daniels, because, hey, she got the money.
Right. Boy, I tell you what, and I want to go back to, in fact, let me segue. I'm this radio station thing and this video thing, I'm new to it, so I'm going to do a little segue music. Is that okay with everybody? I picked this out specifically for you because of my next question. Hold on, here we go. We're going to...
And then you have the nerve to tell me you think that as a mother I'm not fit.
There we
Well,
go.
this is just a little Peyton place, and you're all Harper Valley hypocrites.
Okay, so this is going to segue. Isn't that great? I haven't watched that one yet, but you were in that.
Jeannie C. Riley. Jeannie C. Riley was the singer. Oh, that's
awesome.
Just
love it. And so you moved out of, so you it's not like you're just coming in here and going, well, this is what I think, this is what I think. You lived in the midst of the Hollywood crowd. You live in California now, although for the life of me I can't. Did you get a burning bush from God that said go from Texas to California? I mean, how did it tell us how you went from in the Hollywood culture and doing those things to become Susan Swift, hero mom at large? I know you've got 7 children. You're an advocate for stay-at-home moms and things like that. And you made a comment to me I want you to comment on as well, that when we were writing back and forth, that getting ready for the show, that you are even more conservative on abortions than most conservatives, and I'd like to go into that a little bit as well. Can you kind of take us from Susan Swift Hollywood, Susan Swift politics, and what is your stand on the abortion issue?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Texas. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. And I grew up there, and it was from a little acting class in Texas that my parents had enrolled me in just for fun to do once a week. That Robert Wise he was doing a nationwide search and came down to Houston and had asked the people who were running the acting school. It was called the Merry-Go-Round Theater. It was attached to the Alley Theater in Houston. He asked them to pick out a few girls that might be right for this role for Audrey Rose. I tried out, and eventually, of course, they screen tested me, et cetera, and cast me in that role. But we stayed living in Texas, and so my mom would come and with me. I'd be on the set. She would be there, and my dad would stay in Texas at his job. He was a life insurance salesman, and my mom was a teacher, a school teacher. Although she'd had her own career even earlier before I was born, which is kind of interesting. But what happened eventually is when I was 18, my dad got a different job in a firm that was in California, and so he moved the family to California.
Okay.
That's when I was 18, and so came out, and I started going to school out here. I actually went to Occidental for my first year. That was my grandmother had gone to Occidental, and my mother had gone to Occidental, and so I went to Occidental for 1 year, which is also where Barack Obama went to school. I'm sorry to say. Oh, what shame.
Well,
but maybe he was an exchange student. I don't know. But whatever. He was there. He not at the same time. It was a different time. I didn't. I never saw him there. And then after I went to Occidental for 1 year, I had such a bad experience with a roommate that I decided I'm out of here, and I transferred to UCLA. So then I started to UCLA, and here's where I was making my mistake, and it's kind of a silly, funny thing. My mom and dad raised me with very traditional kind of American work ethic, which is, you work hard, you go to school because that's the track to being successful and doing the right thing, So I'm here. I am. I'm at UCLA. I'm trying to get this. Now. I've been a professional actor for years. I started when I was 10, 11. It's when I got cast, and so I have a resume, a real resume of films, and I've never even been in commercials or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm now trying to get into UCLA's theater arts department. And they won't let me in.
Oh. Oh my gosh.
Because I'm trying out every semester. I'm filling out all the paper, and I'm asking him, please, oh, please, please let me be in your theater program. And they won't let me in.
Oh my
I didn't
gosh.
get in until the very last, I think it's my junior year, like either the first or second semester, I forget. This is ancient history.
Wow.
This is before they used to have just theater, and then they had a motion picture television department they were starting up. They've now combined them, so it's MPE TV, it's the whole thing there. But they would not let me in, and I actually got so discouraged I didn't even try out for some of the major plays, because the same kids always got cast, and it would just start to heartbreak me. And I just said, you know what, I'm never going to get cast anyway, and I can't stand it.
Incredible.
So while I'm here at UCLA trying out to get into the theater arts department, I have an agent, and it was the Gersh Agency. It's now known as TGA, the Gersh Agency, and they were representing Harrison Ford at the time. I mean, it's a major agency, right?
Right.
And my agent at the time, Scott Harris, was and he went on to create Paragon, which is his firm. I mean, he's a great agent.
Yeah.
He's calling me and saying, "Hey, can you take an interview? Can you go to this interview or that?" And I'm telling him, "Oh, Scott, I've got a midterm, or I've got a paper due, or I've got a final. I can't go to the interview." Can you see what that would do to somebody? They're like, "You're not even serious." So here I am trying to get into theater art. I've got the world upside down. I was one of these people that I should not have gone to college.
Right.
I should have continued in theater and television and motion picture. I should have done that. You can always go to college.
Right.
But this was my my mom and dad valued education, so
Yeah.
I kept at it. And so I kept going, and then I went on to and so interviews are going down and down, so less work, and then I go on to law school because my dad thought I'd be a good lawyer. So I went on to law school, and I went to law school, graduated Pepperdine with high honor, not magna cum laude, just with magna cum laude, not summa. And so was editor of the Law Review there, and then went into law. And there's no time for doing acting and things like that. And so I figured out there was it was time to have a family.
Right.
And I don't think that you can have a family, at least the way that I wanted to have a family in Hollywood, because of the pressures of
Sure.
just the whole world of what that was. And I had been very sheltered and very protected, of course, because my parents had watched over me and taken good care of me. But there's a whole world that is not very nice in Hollywood, at least at this time. And under 18, they're usually very good to you. They're really, really terrific. But after you're 18, you can get those those kind of casting couch invitations.
Yeah.
And I'm just not going to. I'm worth far more than that. I'm a daughter of God. You can't buy me.
Amen.
You can't.
That's
You
great.
can't pay for me.
Yeah.
So that it was time to have children and raise them well. And so that was something that I walked away from law as well, because I just believed I owed my children what my mother gave me, which was a mom at home who would be there for them. And those were choices that I made.
Did you
that's how I got to be a mom.
Did you catch any flack over that? I mean, did people say how could you leave this life, just for raising children? It was so scorned and so.
I don't know. I mean, the funny thing is, I remember one time just taking my kids. I was going over to a local garden here. It's kind of a botanical garden, and I had my kids in a stroller, and there's the little ones in there, kind of running through the bushes and running around and having a good time. And this very large, kind of very butch type woman comes up to me and informs me that this is a contemplative park and it is not for children and they shouldn't be running around.
Well.
And she called me a breeder.
Oh my God.
I'm a breeder because I had children, and of course I've had 7. So there's a lot there. There's a lot of people who say that I'm having more than my fair share.
Well, Jim
And that I
Gaffigan would be
should-
proud of you.
I get the joke,
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Jim Gaffigan would be proud of you. So that's
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yes.
Have you watched his comedy?
But I've gotten that kind of flack, like, well, don't you have a hobby? Don't
Right.
you know what? Those kind of things. I've gotten a little bit of that, but that's okay. I'm big. I can take it.
Yeah, I've got some friends of ours that are listening in from Cassville, Missouri right now, and I think they are on child number 9. and I know it's 8 or 9. I always joke around with Lindsay and say thank you for doing your part fighting against Islam, and so that's kind of a joke between her and I.
Correct.
You know.
Yes, exactly. Because, well, I think the average number of children that an Islamic woman will have is 7. Is
Yeah.
that, I have that
Yep.
right?
Yep,
At
that's
least
right.
That's what I believe. But yeah,
Incredible.
and that they're a very fast-growing religion because they just grow more, and they're outbreeding us.
That's
and
right.
no, it's no wonder, because in the liberal world, women are supposed to compete with men in the workplace, and you're supposed to break the glass ceiling, grab the brass ring, all of that stuff, because you're not supposed to be a mother at home. Again, these are the culture keepers.
Sure.
They have too much invested in the notion of that somehow you're being held down as a woman unless you're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week. What? I got news for you. We were the queens of our home, before
Right.
World War II, and they did whatever we wanted of them to do, and we stayed home and we ran the place and we raised the kids. And now we're having to do that plus work too. And all this helps is actually a very large kind of corporate mentality, which is I've just doubled the number of workers, and so my wages can now stay kind of flat. And so men cannot earn as much as, just think if we wiped out half of the population that is in the workforce,
Right.
wages would necessarily rise, right?
Yep.
But right now we're all so busy trying to make ends meet that we've got both parents working outside the home. And so that ends up benefiting businesses a lot, and it hurts families. It does hurt, of course, it does help, people who have daycares and want to run, 24/7 childcare. So we're farming out the most important job of all because we can't afford to live, and that's because of tax policies and things. And that's why I'm very, very glad that Trump at least started to roll back some of these taxes.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you really want to know what true choice is for a woman, is the choice to stay home and raise her children.
And
that's the true choice.
Yeah,
for
not a more
have.
important job on the planet. And I don't say that lightly. I come from a single parent home. It was my mom and 3 kids, and so I was very glad that she was in a situation that she could stay with us. And I just think it's
that's
incredible.
the most important thing that I think a woman can do. It's really the most important thing, because women do a different job. It's not a better job of raising other than a father. Really, it takes 2 people ideally.
Right.
That is the best structure for a child, is a father at home and a mother at home. But mothers give that tender love and that care that really young children really truly need. And so the true choice for a woman, if we all were honest, would be the choice to stay home. And that comes with prosperity, that comes with lots of job opportunities, low taxes, and then she can choose. And it also means that the husband can say, you know what, Bobby's now 9. He really needs a guy around the house to, throw a ball and do yard work or whatever traditional man things, or maybe untraditional. I think now I'll and you go activate your career. Those would be true choices. Yeah. But the fake choice is the liberal choice, which they use the word choice to mask the word abortion, because abortion means you cut up a baby that's alive in the womb and you suck them out piece by piece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's sick.
Yeah, it is.
And everybody can recognize it. If you show a young girl or young mom her baby on a 4D ultrasound scan machine, she'll see the baby's face, and that's why. And she'll say, "Oh my gosh, it's a life. It's a person. I can't kill it." And that's why Planned Parenthood absolutely opposes the use of those machines. They try to put in legislation that make it difficult to have those machines in place, and they're doing everything they can because they're profiting off of the human sacrifice that is abortion.
Right.
That's on the altar of liberalism. That
so
is
tell
an
us,
unholy sacrifice.
Tell us your why you would say you're probably even more conservative on abortion than conservatives.
Well, I'll tell you why. I changed in law school. I was pro-choice, okay, in college and growing up, and I was just raised with the kind of, because it is a woman's body. Absolutely, it's a woman's body, and rape is not okay.
Right.
But the other body is not the woman's body, and you can't kill some other body just because it's inside the woman's body. You just can't do it.
Yeah.
The reason that I changed is because I read a law case that was taught to us in law school about a baby who'd had kidney problems. The mother and father then conceived a second child for the purpose of using one of the baby's kidneys to transplant into their young son in an effort to save the life. Now, that may be controversial in and of itself, but what that did for me, just thinking about it, all of a sudden I realized, wait a minute, this mother and father, they already know that this new baby's probably going to have kidney problems, and oh my gosh, they're going to be taking away the baby's kidneys. It's the baby's kidneys. It's the baby's kidneys. It's his choice, and it just, all of a sudden, that was the epiphany of, this is a child, and it's unborn, but it has parts. It's got toes and fingers and everything, and you can't make those type of decisions. So that turned me all the way around. Now, the reason that I'm what I consider more pro-life than most people is because I believe that a baby begins at conception.
Right. Yeah.
When the egg and sperm meet, even before it implants, it has its new genetic code that was designed by the master builder.
Yeah.
And that is a life. Okay, it's a baby at that moment. It's a human seed. Yeah, I know it's a zygote. Don't get me all hung up with the words, but that is the beginning of life.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that God allows humans to reign over life. That's not our job to pronounce a death sentence on innocent life.
Amen.
So I'm very consistent with the Catholic Church, which also allows abortions. That's a lie that the Catholic Church never allows abortions. It does, in a very, very narrow circumstance, when the life of the mother is at stake. If it's truly a choice between the mother is going to die or the baby's going to die, then the doctor has to make a choice, and hopefully the doctor goes with which life is more, the better one to save. But that is the only place when if you have to save the baby's life, and let the mother die, all right. Or if we have to have the abortion, for example, in an ectopic pregnancy. An ectopic pregnancy is where the zygote that has formed is now implanting not in the uterus where it's supposed to. It's implanted up into one of the fallopian tubes.
Right.
And it's going to basically rupture the woman's, fallopian tubes and kill her. All right. In that type of, yes, that's a baby. Okay. Yes, it's abortion, but it's necessary to save the mother's life. So that's why.
Is this a case? Would that be a case where the baby would not live as well?
Correct. Yeah, I don't think, at least as far as I know.
Yeah, here's a question that was posed to me: If a woman were in a hold-up situation, let's say in a restaurant, and somebody was going to shoot her, and she grabbed her 6-month-old baby and held it in front of her so that the baby died instead of the mom, would that be acceptable? And I thought, wow, that's really a pretty good question when it comes to the question of if it's the mom's life or the baby's life. But I would agree with you in a instance where neither one is going to live and you can save one of them. That's a different story.
Where you can save one, you're morally bound to save one.
Yeah, I agree.
If you're giving me that choice that you can only save one, then you have to save the one you can save. But look, we are living in the best world, the best modern medicine. I mean, I really do believe that God has allowed a lot of the discoveries to roll back the age of viability. What we're at 23, 22 weeks. I think He's doing that, trying to just save as many babies from abortion as possible. And perhaps there will be a development soon where you can somehow take a fertilized egg out of the uterus before it implants or something, and actually grow it in some sort of a test tube or something. I would probably say that was morally wrong as well. However, in the case where maybe the mother's going to die or she has some severe mental problem or something like that, if that option becomes available, then there would be absolutely no reason ever to justify any abortion.
Right.
That would be the end of the abortion industry if we could create an artificial womb. And I would still have moral problems with that. But assuming we could, if the technology were there, then abortion would be 100% wrong all of the time. The only time that it is even morally acceptable is when the life of the mother is at stake, literally, not just mental health and all the stuff that they lay on you. No. It's in the moment when you're for instance, if the baby is, stuck and, in the delivery channel and cannot get out and the mother's dying, and you got to make a choice, you got to crack the mother's hip or something. Sometimes one of them dies. And that is a moral choice, and that's something we do. But I don't
so
see
rare.
why we have to kill innocent babies.
Yeah, and
it is
those,
so rare,
yeah,
especially
those
in America.
Exactly.
It's so rare.
I love what Ben Shapiro does with that train of argument, and he's got a lot of good information on things like that. Does a really
he's brilliant.
Good argument. So what do you think about I'm sure you feel the same way that I do about what's her name, Michelle Barf Wolf at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Did you hear her joke about abortion? I mean, it was.
I did not. I'd love to hear it if you have it. I did not. I've heard about it, but I did not hear the actual joke.
I don't. I should have uploaded a clip of that. But yeah, she just basically, the joke, it wasn't a joke in the first place, but she was talking about.
No, of course it wasn't.
Yeah. She was talking about Mike Pence and him. Oh, he believes, of course, that abortion is murder. Just this dripping sarcasm. And then said something about, if you're gonna, don't knock it till you try it, is what she said. And then if you try it, make sure you knock it really well, because you want to knock that baby right out of there. And I cannot believe, here's the thing.
It's so sick.
It is. You and I, we're almost the same age. We grew up in a time period where even the arguments between abortion and what they call choice, and I call it murder, and pro-life, they were at least respectful of our position. For the most part, it was, hey, I understand that you
exactly.
think... Yeah,
it was.
And now it's become a joke. And, I'm just stunned.
It was civil discourse. It was civil discourse, and we could disagree and use, basically there was a brief moment in time when liberals were allowing an exchange of ideas. But they've since lost that argument, because they have to admit the non-starter is that what is an abortion? It is the termination, that means killing, death, murder, right? The termination of a human fetus. Okay, those are very kind of precise words. And when you break it down, they have to admit that they are killing a baby.
Right.
And once that they admit that, then what they do is they pivot inside the wheel and they say, oh, well, you're just being and they fill in the blank. You're being a racist, or you're being intolerant, or you're being, you're enforcing your values on me, blah, blah, blah. They start going into the ad hominem attacks. And that's because they cannot survive the fact that the natural law, that the only way that babies ever come into this world is through conception, implantation, and birth.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only way we've ever figured out how to do it, okay? And there is no other way to have a person, to create a new citizen. And yet here they are profiting off of the taxes of these citizens who've been already, they've survived abortion. All of us since, 1972, 73, we're all survivors of abortion, right, since Roe v. Wade.
Right.
They're now using our money against our will. They take, $350 million a year, is it?
Yeah.
That the taxpayer, you and I, generously donate to Planned Parenthood. This is against our will.
Incredible.
Now, this isn't for defense of the border or for war or something that we can all, that has a fundamental basis in maintaining of the union of the country. This is something that is, look, I believe in it. My religion teaches me that it is a mortal sin to participate in an abortion. I can't help with that. I can't hold the little saw for the doctor, the little suction thing.
Yeah.
I can't be a nurse. I can't do that. Otherwise, I am participating in mortal sin, and what I'm doing is I am telling God the same thing that Satan said, which is non serviam, which is fancy Latin for I will not serve.
Right.
I will not serve you. I will not obey you. I don't recognize it. I can't do it. And yet here is my government, for how many years now, giving my hard-earned tax money to these abortion butchers.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing. And they won't even look, how about we just let them compete? I'll show you what tolerance is. Tolerance is, all right, we'll allow you to stay open and kill babies. You just do it on somebody else's dime. That's actually tolerance.
Right.
Tolerance is allowing an alternate state of life, whether it's, if people want to get married and they're the same gender, if it's homosexual marriage, okay, fine, go ahead and you can live that way. Just don't call it marriage. Don't redefine the word marriage inside the state that I live in, because that affects the money that goes into education. That's why the battle on Prop 8 out here in California was fought, unfortunately lost, because they were trying to redefine the word marriage to mean a union between a man and a man, or a woman and a woman, when it was defined as a man and a woman. What that did, it wasn't about the definition. Of course, that's what the left wanted to make it, as though we're all intolerant, hateful, hater people.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
But what they were trying to do is, if you redefine marriage, then all the way throughout the civil code, that term, especially in the education code, now schools must teach marriage. It's part of the curriculum. And that means what? Well, then you open the door to everything, fisting, you name it,
Yep.
And that's what we were fighting against, is please do not redefine our term. But they did anyway. So that's what abortion is trying to do. It's just saying, just give us the money. I would at least, I can't tolerate it, but I would do what Reagan would do, is I would get as far as I could and then come back for more. So if I could wave a magic wand, I'd say, okay, fine. At least you don't get any government funding.
Yeah.
You can still exist out there, and you can still cut up babies in the middle of the night. You go right ahead, but don't do it with my money. That would be at least tolerant. But we're doing far more than that. We're actually enabling it.
Yeah, I've got a friend named Mark Elsasser. He's been on the show before, that works up in D.C. with a Right to Life organization, and he made an interesting observation. I'm gonna repeat it to you. You tell me what you think about this. He said we've got to adopt the liberal tactics. In other words, what we do is we go to the table and we tell them what we want. He said what we need to do is go to the table and say, not only do we want to stop all abortions, but we want to retroactively put all abortion doctors in prison, and take things just that incredibly so far beyond what we really want, so that we can actually get something that we really want, which is what the left does. Does that make sense?
Right. Yeah, let's criminalize abortion.
Yeah.
I think abortion should be criminalized.
I do too.
Except for in the rare cases when the mother's life is at stake. And those are very, very rare. We're not, what we're talking about. But
Sure.
What you do is you just pass a bill to criminalize abortion. And the left would go up in arms. They'd be crazy.
Yeah.
And then they'd say they'd trot out everything, because, look, we all know they do this for a profit. Not only are they getting, $350 a pop from the government through Medicare, whatever it is, whatever the program is, for every girl who comes in there and gets an abortion, and what they do also is they take the little baby and they sell its part.
Oh,
we now know that too, right? Dave Dallian, right? We know that they're violating statute. They should all be prosecuted for those. Look. It's the same thing as immigration or anything else. We have laws on the books we are not enforcing.
Right.
We have gun laws on the books. We have immigration laws on the books. We have these statutes that would protect the selling of baby parts on the books. Where are we enforcing them? And for 8 years, Barack Obama made sure we didn't. He did selective enforcement of only selective laws. If you do that, what you're doing is you are discriminating. And what it does is it frustrates the populace so badly, because now we don't know. What we start thinking there must be some sort of conspiracy, right? Because why would they selectively enforce immigration laws against certain people but not others? There must be a conspiracy. They are trying, and this is why we get these kind of ideas. What we need enforcement of all the laws. And here's why. Even if the law is a bad law, a terrible law, and we can all agree that it's a terrible law, enforce it anyway. Why? Because then people would actually get to see that it's enforced, and they'd say, oh, well, we need to change that. Then you activate the legislature. That's what we have. The legislature can then pass a new law.
Right.
The judiciary is there to just enforce it, not to rewrite it, which is what the liberals do all the time.
Thank you, ma'am.
They rewrite the law. Well, it intended it to be this way. Therefore, we're going to make it be. That's what these justices in black robes, they're reigning over us as kings.
Preach it, sister.
Just interpret it. It's just decide the case based on the rule of law. Don't interpret it. Don't invent it. Just pass it as it is, because that will inform people. Then they'll see, oh my gosh, this statute results in this kind of unfair prosecution. Yeah. Okay, now I will go back to my legislature. I'll say, we must now change the law. That's how people stay engaged. But when you take that away from people, then they all start saying, well, the system's corrupt. The government officials are corrupt. The judges are corrupt.
Great
you just
point.
have to have money and power, and that's all. And screw it. I don't even want to be part of it. I'm going to check out. And hey, what's on for football Friday night tonight or whatever.
Wow.
That's what they do. They become disengaged. That's exactly what they do. And then they don't care.
That's a great observation. I had not even thought of it from that point of view. So I'm going to have to take some time and meditate on it.
It's a way of discouraging people.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's a way of discouraging people and getting them to, your voice doesn't matter. And here's why it doesn't matter, right? Because nothing you can do will change. I have the power of the courts and I have the power of the legislatures. And so you just sit down and shut up and give me your money.
Wow.
And we get frustrated with that. And what we have to all do is realize, well, no, we still are living in a constitutional republic, not a democracy, a republic.
Right. Yeah.
A democracy is mob rule. That's what liberals live under all the time. That's their mentality. We are living in a republic, and that means our elections matter. Yes, down to dog catcher, all the way down. And the 2018s are absolutely critical, because unless we start cleaning house, and we have to drain the swamp. I'm glad that Trump's up there trying to drain the swamp. He's not my favorite guy, okay? I mean, he's got a potty mouth and all that stuff. And, yeah, he slept around with his wife. I think we've all can conclude that his morality meter is broken. I get that.
Right.
But you know what? Look, Donald Trump is the Republicans' Bill Clinton, right?
Yeah, yep.
That's what he is.
Yeah.
So he'll sleep around on his wife, or he had an affair and paid off somebody. Okay, fine. I don't care, because he is at least enforcing my ideology. And that's what I want. I want a protector and an enforcer of my ideology. And I don't so much care about his personal morality, although I'll pray for him and I hope he'll change. What I want in a president, what I want in the legislative branch is I want them to enforce the law.
Yes.
I want them to it's about the law, not their morality. My law. That's what I want protected and advanced.
Yeah,
and
that's so good.
That's why we need to vote, because there are too few people. They're all in the swamp, and we have to drain the swamp. The swamp dwellers are happy. They are fat, dumb, and happy getting all of our money. That's and that's why they don't want to change in the status quo. Because if we get rid of a committee, oh my gosh, then you mean I'm not on the committee? I'm not getting the committee payment? We don't want to solve any problems. God forbid. We want the committee that we'll keep studying things, and then we'll have another federal funded study for this or that. No. That's why we have to drain the swamp. We have to start sending solid conservative people. And the only way that I know, and I'm circling back around now, the only way that I know to guarantee that I'm going to get someone who will defend the law is by voting for conservatives who are adamantly pro-life, because you got to be really, really brave. You have to have a real spine and some guts to stand up there and say, yeah, that's a life, and no, I'm not going to kill a baby.
Yeah.
And you have to take flack. If you're strong enough to do that, then I can trust you with all the rest of the laws that, okay. And I would even recommend that to other voters who say, well, look, I'm not a social issues kind of a guy. I'm more of a fiscal issues. I just want somebody to be, fiscally conservative. The best way you're going to find a fiscal conservative is by finding a pro-life conservative. That's the only one, because if they'll stick on that, they'll stick on the rest. Everybody's making deals.
You have brought up
somebody who's strong.
That's right. I was a Ted Cruz guy myself. I'm so.
I love him. I love him.
I do too. And on my radio show during the election, before we grabbed Trump, I was pushing for Cruz. I was not a never Trumper, but I was not pleased with Trump. But I gotta say, the guy has impressed me since he's been in office. Not morally, of course, but he's impressed me that he's doing some things. And
yes,
I'm with you.
He's done a lot of what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
He said he was going to do a lot of the things, and he's done a lot of it. Some of the stuff I'm not super happy with, but you know what? He's doing what he said he was doing. And that's all I can ask.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. I'm in pretty good shape. We're gonna listen. We have almost used up our time now. Excuse me. What I did is I booked the show for 90 minutes. Do you need to go, or can you take a few more minutes and talk to us about your book, your children's book?
I can go.
Let me segue into this next section. I'm just gonna play a little clip, and I'm sure you're gonna enjoy it, and then we'll talk a little bit about your book. Okay? All right. Here we go.
All righty. Thanks.
All right.
You live here? Yes. Well, maybe you know what a zombie is. When a person dies and is buried, it seems there are certain voodoo priests who have the power to bring him back to life.
Horrible.
It's worse than horrible, because a zombie has no will of his own. You see them sometimes walking around blindly with dead eyes, following orders, not knowing what they do, not caring.
You mean like Democrats?
Oh, you mean like Democrats. So Isn't that great? It's so
I
funny.
love it. I love it.
Bob Hope. You just
Oh my
can't. You
gosh.
just can't beat that stuff.
Bob Hope,
So
I love him.
I as soon as I saw your book, I went on Amazon and got it. Now I'm a grandfather.
Thanks.
I have 7 kids. I'm gonna get them all one of these. I thought it was a genius idea because I really thought I was going to look in there and it was going to be, kind of really prolonged. And I've wondered because I've read a few books like that I thought, this isn't on the level of my grandkids. This one is. And I just love the way you did this introduction to not only guns, but the way, kind of fighting that idea that all policemen are bad and all our service people are bad. It's just, boy, the liberal media has lied that lie so well. And so I loved the book. So
Yeah.
I'm going to get hard copies and give those to all my grandkids. So talk to us about your idea behind this book, a little bit of how it came to fruition and what you're thinking. Because it's my understanding,
Sure.
you're going to do another one. Is that correct? Or you're working on another one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell us
And
all about it.
The name of the book is called Good Guys with Guns at Home. That's
Home.
the first book, Good
Right.
Guys with Guns at Home. And that's about domestic law enforcement, all of the different everyday heroes who use guns to protect Americans at home. And that's the sheriff, that's the police officer, that's even the people who sign up for the National Guard, right?
Yeah.
And so those people, they use guns every day. Everyone has guns, even everyone has a gun, and guess what? Very, very few people get shot. The only time that people get shot is usually a bad guy who has so far never been a member of the NRA, and I don't think they've even been conservative. But all of these whack jobs, they're
Right.
they are, I think, unhinged mental cases or liberals who go shooting people up and killing people, and they use a gun to do it. They would use a knife if they could. It's got nothing to do with the gun. It's got everything to do with the bad actor. The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. But the left, of course.
That's great.
That's right. And here's why the left, and this is why one of the reasons I wrote the book, because I'm so sick and tired of how the left is destroying law enforcement. Here's why they're doing it. Because they want a state of chaos. They want us to think that the laws are enforced unequally and unfairly, and that somehow the police officers are targeting blacks or browns or greens or yellows or whites or whatever, right?
Right.
And it's not fair. Therefore, the law is not fair. And what is the source of all of our law? What is the source of all of our law? Our Constitution.
Constitution. Yeah,
right?
That's right. Yep.
And where did the Constitution come from? It came from Judeo-Christian ideals of morality, of
Exactly.
life and liberty, and what the kind Father, God Father, gave everyone, which is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
He didn't give us happiness. He gave us the ability to find it on our own. That's
Great.
what makes us all unique and individual.
Yeah.
And from those rights flow all of the other rights, and also the 10 Commandments are informative. So that's the source of our law in the United States is the Constitution. And it, of course, reserves to the state the majority of the power, right? So that we have local control by, local individuals. That is what the left is trying to agitate. What they prefer a centralized federal, not even federal, but centralized government that's in Washington that reigns over all the states. They don't want the states to have their own power. They don't want their cities to have their own power.
Right.
They want to collect all power. That's what they are. They're collectivists. They collect all the power in one place, and then they preside over all of it. So their goal is to unsettle and destabilize local laws, local law enforcement.
Right.
And it's just so handy that they always team that up with race. So I can say a police officer is racist. Okay, well, gee, how? How come? Well, because he was white and he shot a black guy. Okay, well, did the black guy have a gun? Yeah, he did. So we keep going through this, and that was the whole, no justice, no peace, hands up, don't shoot. They even manufacture facts.
Sure.
That just to rattle people up, to make people believe that police officers are by nature corrupt and are going to abuse other people. So I wanted to defend police officers. I actually, not a lot of people know this, but I've said it a couple times, so it's out now. When I was a young lawyer, cutting my little baby teeth lawyer, I actually volunteered to defend Larry Powell. Larry Powell was one of the officers in the Rodney King
Right.
incident. who he was accused of using the baton to hit King in the head, which he never did. And I volunteered to be one of his lawyers to defend him in the federal civil rights case that followed after the judgment in Simi Valley had come down that the officers were not guilty. That's when the feds got involved, and they knew that they had to get heads on plates, and that was it. I have never seen more money flowing in my life.
Right.
The fancy suits, the exhibits, the endless parades. And that's when I actually knew, because up until then, for me, I could never imagine, well, I would presume that somebody was guilty. I really would. It's like, if they're charged. Now I have a very different perspective, which is every person, I don't even care, even if it's Gosnell, the abortionist doctor who's killed and butchered babies, even that mass murderer, Gosnell, Dr. Gosnell, deserves a defense, because for this reason only, to rein in the tyranny of the government.
Right.
We
Well,
cannot
that's right.
allow a government to come in and say, well, he's obviously guilty.
Yeah.
No, you have to prove every element of the crime. And I would sit there, even as pro-life as you know that I am,
Yeah.
I would defend that doctor against a government action,
Sure.
because what he's doing is wrong. But it doesn't matter, because what the government can do is even worse, which
Yeah.
is tyranny. You must defend against governmental tyranny. In any event, getting back to my book, I wanted to let police officers and sheriff and fire, the people who protect us, know that we've got their back. We appreciate them. We love them. They're good. They are the good guys. They spend every day. They have to go out every day, and they may not even see their kids or their spouse ever again. They kiss them goodbye, and they may be shot in the line of duty.
Right.
It's just sick, and yet they're going to be called racist for doing it.
Yeah.
When they're the ones protecting sometimes, rioters who want to, they want to have a walk, a march, and these police officers are protecting them against people who don't want them to have the right to march or walk. So these are good guys, and I wanted to reach a very young population, because it's really important that we start re-educating our children.
Yeah.
That's what the left has done for 30 years.
Yes.
They have brainwashed our kids. They do it every day. You should see the stuff my kids come home from public school.
Oh my gosh.
It's an English assignment, and it's all about, it's an English assignment. So they're testing reading comprehension, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the context of the English assignment is all about global warming. I kid you not.
Isn't that incredible?
So if you don't give the right answer, like, yes, global warming is a very big danger for the rest of the world, whatever it is, if you don't click the right box, you're going to get a bad grade, because they think you don't understand the material. You get it? You see what I'm saying? They're brainwashing you through the lesson itself.
Sure.
I've seen several lessons like this, and it's just sick. So we have to start re-educating our kids, and that means they should all get a gun at 10 or 12, or when the parent thinks that he's able to handle it. You go out and take them out to a range, or your backyard if you've got a big property, and set it up and protect the area, and make sure that your child knows how to shoot a gun.
You betcha. Yeah.
Any kind of gun. Every kind of gun.
Yeah.
And there's no such thing as an assault weapon. I'll tell you what an assault weapon is. I own several of them. They're called frying pans. That's what women use. They're assault weapons.
That's right.
You just smack them.
That's
you
right.
Just throw them.
They'll take
Knives
care of
are
it.
assault weapons.
Well, and we
a purse, a handbag is
Yeah.
an assault weapon.
Well, in a
So,
van.
in any event, I wanted to. Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, a van is an assault weapon for sure. We've already seen them. They drive down the streets and kill people.
Exactly.
Airplanes are assault weapons. They took out the Twin Towers.
Yeah.
So it's the way that the liberals use language to confuse things. Just like
Sure.
they say it's choice, when they really mean they're cutting up a baby in little pieces and
Right.
sucking them out. So back to the book. The first one was Good Guys with Guns at Home, and I wanted to help people show their children in a friendly way. I wanted to see friendly faces, and they could look at the different guns, and you see there's even got a taser there and all kinds of different things, so that a kid can not feel guilty, but you can just look at the illustrations and look at, ooh, that's kind of a cool gun. That's kind of neat.
Yep.
And I found a friend of mine who's conservative, and in a group of conservative artists that I know, and I asked him to be the illustrator, and he's won the Lifetime Achievement Award in his field for being an artist, and so I thought he'd do a good job, and he did.
Yeah.
And then I did the second book, which is The Good Guys with Guns Abroad. Good Guys with Guns Abroad honors the military, those Americans, the everyday heroes who defend American interests all around the world, and yeah, they carry a gun too.
Yeah.
And they stand in front of, our American embassy, all around the world, or they're on our border. They're the border patrol, right?
Yeah.
They're in our Navy. The Navy has big guns. It's called Mighty Mo. It's a battleship, right? And I've even got a gal in the Good Guys with Guns Abroad book. She's an Army officer, and she said, yeah, I have a big gun on wheels. It's called a tank. And so, you got to recognize these people, and they're in their 20s. They're 18, 19, 20. They're not even in some cases they're not even allowed to buy cigarettes yet, right? Or even get pseudoephedrine.
Right. Yeah.
They can't even buy or buy alcohol, but they're allowed to use guns to protect and serve American interests abroad, and we don't appreciate them at all either. My dad was a Marine in World War II, and I just look. There's so many men and women who have given their lives for our way of life. Yeah. And yet they're the ones that are called. That's the other thing. The government is kind of sneaking up on and wanting, well, what if they have PTSD and they're not mentally stable? I think we need a bill that would take guns away from veterans. I mean, that's kind of the cockamamie idea.
Incredible.
What we should be doing is we should be getting all of these retired veterans and these retired police officers. We should put them in the schools.
Amen.
Armed to the teeth.
Yeah.
And that way we don't have to have, then they would be safe spaces. I guarantee you they'd be very safe spaces, because we'd have 5 or 6 military guys who'd be there. They could rotate through like firemen, to say, I'm having duty today. And nobody would, if they got off one shot, they'd be lucky, because they'd be all over this guy like ducks on a June bug.
You bet.
And there wouldn't be problems in schools. There just wouldn't be. But of course the left cannot cede their incubator. The incubator is the education system.
Yeah,
that's where they vampirize children.
I made a comment. I'm a Baptist preacher, and so I preach, and from the pulpit, I'm political from the pulpit. I make no apologies for that.
Amen.
I think it's a Christian's duty. And
you
a pastor's
should be, and that more. More preachers need to be political.
Yeah,
you can't violate it on a particular person, but on issues. That's what God is calling us to do.
Amen. And so I made this statement. I said, and take this for what I meant it, and they didn't. Somebody got very offended, but I said an uneducated child is better off than a child educated in the school system today without parental supervision. And what I was talking about is parents need to get, I'm not saying don't put your kids in public school. I'm a pretty big homeschool advocate, but I know there are situations where people need to be in public school, but you've got to be a hands-on parent with that public school education, for the very reason that you were saying, your children coming home with this, I love Andrew Klavan. I had a clip last week I played where he's talking about the science is done, the argument's over, and that is their thought process, and it's far from over, this global warming thing.
So, of course, I know where global warming comes from. So do you, and so does every 5th grader. And I'll tell you exactly where it comes from. It comes from the sun.
Yeah,
that's where it comes from. That's what warms and heats our. And you know what? Guess what? Some fancy guy determined that the sun is in the center, and we go around the sun.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a solar system. That's where our heat comes from. If you want to bother to check the geological records, you'll find that that's true, but that's not convenient for Al Gore and the guys who are trying to literally sell us air by calling it carbon credits. They're literally trying to profit off of air. For crying out loud, if we didn't have carbon, we wouldn't have plants. For goodness sakes. Every 5th grader will know that, until, of course, the teacher gets to them and says, of course, but the global warming is very, very bad, and it's going to kill us all, and we need to reduce our carbon footprint. And what they really mean, truly, now we're getting back to the true hardcore ideologue liberals, to reduce a carbon footprint, means killing babies. Because there's a lot of little carbon footprints that have been killed.
Wow.
It's population control.
Yeah.
It's population control. If I can control your food, and that's the whole GMO problem there. They want to tell us that we can't grow GMO food because it's unhealthy. They don't want to feed the world, because I want to control the food you eat. I want to control the energy you have. No nuclear, because that would be too efficient. No. We can't have any nuclear. We've got to control even the engines that we use, because I'm controlling power and energy and heat.
Right.
And I'm controlling your food, and I am now controlling your ability to have children. Birth control.
Yeah.
Birth control. Because now I have absolute. That's the nirvana has been reached in China.
Yeah.
because that's the one-child policy, which they're now loosening up to have two. And what did China get out of it? They got, what, maybe 100, 200,000 extra males, and do you know what they call that in a military context? Cannon fodder. That's what they call that. They have bred an army.
Yeah, incredible.
China has 100, 200,000 men who will never have wives, and they are just dying for an opportunity. Please, I'd like to have my own family. All the Chinese government has to do is one day say, okay, tell you what, we're going to sick you guys up against the evil demon of the West, and whoever comes back victorious gets a woman. And then you've got people, they'll eat rice all day long if that's all they have, and they will come back victorious so that they can have a bride.
Wow.
What kind of a sick country does that to control a man's right to reproduce? And, oh, by the way, since we're on that topic, this is something that will trigger people. Of course, you know my stance on life. If a woman is going to continue having a right to abortion, it's denying the man's right to procreation as well, right? Since she's in control of the procreating, she can decide if the baby lives or dies.
Right.
The only way to balance that out would be to allow a man the right to rape. And that's not okay.
Wow.
We can't have rape being legalized. But how else? How else does a man exercise the same control over life that a woman does? Right now, it's totally imbalanced.
Yeah.
They can all decide beforehand whether or not to get together. Then it's an equal sharing of, well, yeah, I wanted a baby. No, I didn't. That's fine. But once the baby exists, it should not be the wife's, or the woman's ability to just decide, oh, I'm going to kill this baby.
Yeah.
Because the balance would be to allow rape, which never would be allowed. That's the other side of violence. That's the flip side of abortion is rape.
Yeah,
and isn't it wonderful that we're getting a rape culture going? I'm being sarcastic, but isn't it sick that we're seeing rape culture? Well, why? Because we allow the killing of unborn. That's where it comes from. It's the flip side.
It's a very interesting concept. I have argued something similar in that when women say the government doesn't control a man's body, it shouldn't control a woman's body. I was divorced many years ago, and I had to pay child support. And so, if you think, what about
You've been
this
very
guy?
controlled by
Yeah,
the
I was controlled. And what about the guy that his girlfriend or his wife, hopefully he waits till marriage, but let's say he doesn't, and his girlfriend gets pregnant, and he says, "Man, I don't want to raise that baby," and she says, "Too bad, I'm having it, and you're going to pay for it for the rest of your life, or for the next 18
right,
years."
Right. So men are very controlled.
Yeah, sure we are.
Right.
Sure we are.
Government controls men from the get-go.
And
that's
by the way,
exactly said it.
I think they should be. I'm not saying that a man shouldn't pay child support. I think he should. What I'm saying is that the woman's body should be controlled just like the man's is. I think abortion should be legal and it should be a crime. And so and like you said, the life inside that body is a different body. It's different DNA. It's completely different. So
different genetic code. Different. And the other thing, I'll tell you how if you wanted to cut down on abortions and all of that and child support and all that, here's a really fast way to do it. This would be using the law, leveraging the law. You just simply tell a woman, all right, if you want to raise the baby. This, of course, we're not talking about abortion now. We're talking about if she wants to keep the baby and she wants to, of course, get alimony and things from the man who created the child. That only happens where they have entered into a lawful marriage. Otherwise, he shouldn't have to pay a dime.
Wow.
He shouldn't have to pay a dime.
That's
right?
a very interesting
that would
concept.
Encourage, what that would do, that would encourage women to make sure they keep it real legal.
Yeah.
Or you just do the Stormy Daniels up front. You say, dude, look, just pay me some money, and that way I'll take care of it, and I'm not done. Either way, but you can't have both, where she gets to hold the power of life and death over the child, and then hold the power of life and death over the man. See, he doesn't have the right to kill the child.
Right.
And so what it should, to balance the equities in the situation, you should say, well, no, you don't have the right to go after the husband. I'm sorry, not the husband, because he's not one. You don't have a right to go after the sperm donor. That would make most women should say, no, we're not doing this in the back of the Chevy.
Right.
No, that's not happening. We're going to make sure it's lawful and legal. We could start strengthening marriage that way. But of course, that would be considered very Neanderthal, and I'm sure any liberal woman listening to me would just be sick. I'm interested in protecting the child, protecting the institution of marriage, and stop using abortion is just a revolving door, and also stop shaking down men who, they don't have any right to this, because we're not going to allow men to just to determine, as I would say, they can't force a woman That's illegal.
Sure.
So how is it that the woman can then kill the man's child when she's agreed to it in the first place?
Yeah.
Our laws are all whacked out on that. I don't think it's very smart what they've done. But anyway, I have to get back to the book, and I forgot to finish it up. There is a third book that I want to do, and I just need to I need to sell a few more of the first two first to do it. The third book that I hope to write is Good Guys with Guns in American History.
Oh, great.
And that's the third one because it goes back to everyday Americans who have guns to enjoy with sport, with hunting, or with protecting their family and their lives from government.
That's great.
And that's the finish, you see, because the Constitution has given us that right. And the most important person of all is the individual. And the individual, and the Constitution is clear about this, and I believe the Supreme Court has come down on this, is that the Second Amendment is an individual right. It is not a collective right. It's not a standing army.
Right.
It is vested in the individual. It is my right as an American citizen, because of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, right? I have a God-given right to defend myself and defend my life, defend my pursuit of happiness from a tyrannical government.
Yeah.
And that gun is mine.
That's
I
great.
should be able to use it. And I want to honor those people in history, and also all the way up through to today, people like who are in the NRA who believe in exercising their gun rights responsibly. That's the third book, because I'm trying to reach kids at a very, very young level and try to explain the Constitution to them, and that'll put them to sleep. But if you can look at friendly faces, all different colors, all different ethnicities, all different kinds of guns, and they are all under the law. There's not a lawbreaker among them.
Right.
They are all obeying the law and using the Constitution and the state laws appropriately to defend and protect. And so hopefully that's the idea, that kids will see that and see, yeah, guns aren't a problem. These are good guys, and guns go with good guys, and that's fine. That's what stopped that shooting. I was in Texas. I think it was.
Right.
It was
Yes.
a church shooting. That guy it was some guy who just happened to, he had concealed carry, I guess. He came in and stopped it.
Yeah.
More people would have died, but for the fact that we had a good guy with a gun.
Good guy with a gun. How do they get your book?
Good guy with a gun.
Tell our listeners.
They go on Amazon. It's on Amazon.com. You just type in "good guy with gun," "good guys with guns at home" or "good guys with guns abroad." If you just type in "good guys with guns," you scroll down, you'll see the cute. Obviously it's drawn. It's a hand drawing. It's like a cartoon, so you'll see it. It'll come up, and you can also go through my website if you want to, which is susanswift.net. susanswift.net. And so there's a button there that you can find both of my books, and it goes through. It's called Create Space, which is an Amazon company. It allows authors like myself, and yeah, I went to so many, publishing houses. Do you think I got the time of day?
Well,
no.
yeah.
So it's a self-publishing avenue that more and more people are using,
Sure.
so that people can publish controversial books. Because publishing houses just simply won't do it.
Sure.
So they're not going to go. And I'm small fry, so they're not going to do it. So you can go through my website, susanswift.net, and find the book there, or you can go on Amazon. Good Guys with Guns, Good Guys with Guns at Home, Good Guys with Guns Abroad. Hopefully soon I'll be able to do Good Guys with Guns in American History.
SusanSwift.net. And can they also go there, and will that lead them to some of your writings that you've done for Politichicks and Breitbart and all that stuff?
Yes, they will. I write for Politichicks, and I also write for Conservative Firing Line, and so there are links there that'll track back to the articles that I've got up there, so they find out more about me and just general stuff. So that that's where I am as a mom, I guess.
Susan, thank you so much. I have kept you much longer than you promised me, and I appreciate that. I could sit here all night. You sound like such a well-informed person, and you've just been into everything. I think you're just a role model. I am going to introduce my daughters, my granddaughters to you, and go, pay attention to this woman, watch her, emulate her. We need more role models like you out there. Maybe we can have you on the show again and talk about some more things, being a stay-at-home mom and how that works. And I would have loved to have gotten into some of tell the women out there who, like my friend Lindsay, has all these children. How can she become politically active? What can we do? What are some on the ground grassroots efforts that people like us can do? We just have run out of time, and so maybe I can get you back on here.
The one I would love to come back another time, but the one thing that they can do just right now, every day, you have to be careful of the make-believe media.
Yeah.
I call it the make-believe media because they make up the news and then they make you believe it.
Yes.
Right?
That's
So be very careful when you're listening to the make-believe media. All the stuff about Trump and everything, you think, oh my gosh, he's going to be subpoenaed. It's going to be impeachment. It's going to be over. They are doing that for a reason. It's called propaganda, and it is to demoralize and to dispirit you so that you don't go and vote. So what you have to do is go and vote. Get as informed as you can about your choices. Pick the most conservative choice that you have. The best one to do, of course, is the pro-life conservative because they actually believe in the law that they're supporting, and you vote for them, and you vote no matter what, as often as you can. In 2018 is going to matter.
Yes.
That's what they can do. If they can do more by getting involved with their school, getting on the school board. Good luck with that. But get into PTA, get into school board, all of those places, because those are the people right there that can make the decisions every day in very small ways that can start turning the tide, especially in education.
That's really
Moms,
great.
That's what we need.
Yeah,
Moms and education.
I appreciate that so much.
Don't believe the make-believe media.
Yeah.
Don't believe the make-believe media. They make it up.
Have you, just real quick, have you heard of MeWe, the site? We've just made a
I saw it on... I saw that on when Steve sent me, the link to his Facebook page. I saw MeWe. What is that? So tell me about MeWe because it sounds interesting.
Yeah. This was actually mentioned on the Right Angle with Bill Whittle, Scott Ott, and Steve Green, and they were just talking about, hey, Facebook is shadow banning. It's a liberal organization. They were talking about YouTube and all these places, demonetizing, and they're doing this to Steven Crowder and PragerU and all this. And so he mentioned MeWe.
They're doing it to Politichicks. Politichicks is being, it's so hard for them to get their stuff out because of that same thing.
MeWe is very similar in its appearance to Facebook. It's kind of, it needs a little work, but it's not just for conservatives. What it is it's free speech. So there are groups on there that are Muslims. There are groups on there that are gay. There are groups that, it doesn't matter, but their position is, we're not, now they don't allow any nudity or anything like that, but they're not going to censor Christian sites like Facebook is. And so you go on there and like I say, it's very similar to Facebook, but it's got to be a big move. It's got to be fast and hard. And I've been pushing people just to join MeWe, check it out, get in some groups, go to the Right Angle, which is Bill Whittle's little site. Anyway, it's hopefully to send a message out to Facebook that, hey, if you're going to be censoring Christian and conservative sites, we will go somewhere else. You're not the only game in town. And so it's really a monopoly breaker. Check it out.
That's the thing is they like communists and socialists don't like to admit that capitalism works every time it's tried. Just look what's happening over in Africa right now. They're actually improving because of capitalism.
Right.
And that's what we have to do is explain to the big market is, you know what? We can take our business elsewhere.
Yes.
And once Facebook gets that, they will have a come to Jesus meeting and they'll say, oh my gosh, we have to allow this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So you're right. I will check out MeWe.
Yeah, check out MeWe and look me up.
Is it MeWe.com?
Yeah, well, it's just if you put in MeWe in your search, it'll just pop up all over the place. And so I felt a little bad at first because I was using Facebook to promote MeWe, but I thought, well, that's their tactic. I'm just going to use it against them. So
too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad.
Too bad. So sad. We are rebels and renegades, and that this is right now. What we're doing is political guerrilla warfare.
Amen.
That's what your show is. It's political guerrilla warfare.
Thank you. I'm gonna use that somehow. I know. Susan,
you
thank
go right
you.
ahead, because we are in a battle with the culture keepers.
We are.
You're very, very welcome. And I hope I get to come on again because you're just delightful.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's been. I thought it was going to be good. It exceeded my expectations, and so I just appreciate you so much. Stay in the fight, sister, and I hope you have a rest of your night is great. Tell your family hello. We appreciate them, and tell them we all think you're pretty great. So.
I got to go make dinner. They're looking at me like, Mom.
You're in trouble. Talk to you later, sister. Thank you. All right.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Thank you, Mark. Bye.
Bye. Susan, great gal. Really appreciated that. Thanks for joining us. That was a really long show. And like I say, I could have just talked to her forever. She is just loaded with information. Very knowledgeable gal. We will have her on the show again. Looking forward to it. Thanks for joining us, R7 Radio. I want to thank once again Jerry Spencer. Go to jerryspencer.org. And check out his ministry, great ministry. He's the one that we went to Ethiopia with here lately, and he underwrites our show. And so we just love Jerry so much. Also, check out MeWe. Susan's going to go check out MeWe, become a member, get your friends and family to come over, and go check out Susan's. Was it susanswift.net, I think is what she said, and go buy her books. We've got to start throwing money into these conservative places. So I will once again, without prompting and without pay, encourage you to go over to billwhittle.com. $10 a month, folks. And I wish I could send them $100 a month. That's no lie. And I'm not making a dime for saying this. You need to start supporting conservatives, and we need to get billwhittle.com some more money. And so these guys are doing a great job. Bill Whittle, Steve Green, Scott Ott over at the Right Angle. So get on MeWe, get on the Right Angle group, get on the Stratosphere Lounge group. Go check out Bill Whittle, watch all his stuff. You will gain brain power. I'm promising. He has just done a great job of bringing truth to the radio, to the YouTube, or whatever you're watching it on. So thanks for joining us. Next week, we will be in Costa Rica, and I will be interviewing the team that's going to be there with me next Friday. Hopefully that turns out good. And so hopefully you can join us there. We're going to get out of here now. Really long show. Thanks for joining me. Steve Hoover, R7 Radio. Love y'all. Talk to you later.
Come now, fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call forth songs of loudest praise. Teach me to